All right, so that is the new 911 Turbo S. That is the new 700 horsepower hybridized supercar killer hybrid. And I've got about an hour to drive it, launch it, throw it through some corners, and get it back to Porsche before they realize how long I've been gone. So let's just get right into it. This car is something else. I've had some time with the new 911s that are hybridized. I've driven the GTS twice. I've done many miles in that car between having it in Jersey and then driving it in California. I'm gonna kind of combine the two reviews, this car and the GTS, into one because they are extremely similar. The Turbo, based on my experience driving it today, it kind of just is more and better than the GTS. It certainly does the straight line thing a lot better. Speaking of which, we just hit a straight road. Let's do the thing. Let's do the launch. Let's do that. All right, sorry for the lighting, by the way. It's a little weird, but let's see how this thing does. 0 to 60. Let's do it. Oh my God! 2.3 seconds. 2.32 seconds to be specific. That makes this the quickest gas-powered car I've ever tested. It is a hybrid, but the quickest car with an engine I've ever tested from 0 to 60. And this is without rollout, by the way. So factoring in rollout, we might be looking at 2 seconds flat, like actually 2 seconds flat. Oh my God. My God. What are we doing? The 911s have gone hybrid, which for some variants of the platform is a great thing. The low-end torque is immense, and the packaging has only made these cars more efficient on power. But there's something missing, and we'll explore that more in a bit. But firstly, we have to talk about the starting point for 911 hybrids. This is the 992.2 Carrera 4 GTS T-Hybrid, and this is my second time driving it, but this will be my first time really using it as my only car for the week. Man, I really do like using this car. It is one of my favorite cars to drive in general, just because I know exactly what I'm going to expect. I know exactly what it's going to be. I know the car is not going to leave me stranded anymore. I know it's going to be an enjoyable and reliable experience. That's kind of why I like the 911, at least in the non-GT form. So just a perfectly competent, just do-it-all kind of daily sports car. But I do like a little bit of flair. I like a little bit of excitement. I like a little bit of emotion, and that's where I find that sometimes the non-GT 911s can be lacking a bit. 536 horsepower, 449 pound-feet of torque, through a very interesting hybrid system. This is the least hybrid you can buy. That's what I said in my Mercedes GT63 video, and that's because there's no fully electric mode, there's no electric range of any kind. It's just there to help with acceleration. That's literally it. And in addition to the E-motor that's in the gearbox, you have an electrically powered turbo. So you have an electronically powered wastegate to help the turbo spool up quicker, give you instantaneous throttle response, give you a very NA-like power delivery. It is interesting because when this car was rumored to be coming out, the rumor was that they were coming out with a 3.6 liter engine, a new engine, which this is a new engine in the GTS, but the rumor is that it would be naturally aspirated. They were going back to NA for the GTS version of the car. And in execution, that kind of is what this is as far as how it feels. It truly does feel like a naturally aspirated car, especially in canyon carving situations where you're constantly braking, going, you know, and you're relying on that turbo spool. You're relying on the throttle response to work as best as it can. And I've never been let down in any scenario, especially up here in the canyons, where I'm like, dang, if only it's spooled up quicker, you know? I don't have to deal with that. So it's very much got GT3 powertrain characteristics as far as power delivery. The car is still enjoyable, and the soundtrack specifically, it's very like deep and throaty. Pause. It has this like V8-esque undertone. When you're revving the car stationary, it kind of sounds like a 4-cylinder, but then once you start driving it, it kind of sounds like an 8-cylinder. This GTS does a great job of feeling driver focused, for sure. Not so much luxury focused, but I think GT3 is still probably the 911 for me. I think that's the one. But God, let me not act like this isn't a great car. Like, in so many technical and just objective ways, this car is truly a marvel. It's easily one of the best hybridization systems I've experienced in a car that doesn't make you feel like, oh, it's a hybrid, and, you know, meant for saving the environment and whatnot. No, this is just making the car faster and feel like a naturally aspirated car when it's not. That's all this hybrid system is doing. And that's awesome. I really like that. With just a couple of options, you're at like 200K for this car. I don't know if that's ideal for a lot of people, but man, if you want the 911 experience and you don't want to wait for the turbo, which, I mean, maybe you should, but this checks so many boxes. The new Turbo S is more of everything that the C4 GTS is. More powerful, more turbos, more weight, more comfort, more tech. But does that scratch the itch that the GTS left? So the thing with Porsche is that whatever you expect tends to be what you're going to get. Porsche is not a brand that kind of does wild cards, right? And I think maybe to some people, the 911 being hybridized was a bit of a shock. Not to me. I think that's very clearly where Porsche has been going all along, if we take a look at their entire product portfolio. And so this video is kind of just a broad, kind of philosophical, kind of just like chit chat between you and I about where I think these hybrids are going, what that means for the 911 in particular, and why, while this car is incredible in so many ways, I think we're kind of just, I don't know. It's hard to tell where we're going as far as how to actually make these cars more fun. They're getting continually more capable, more refined, but fun, I'm not sure if the cars are actually getting any more fun. And this is something that we could talk about for many different OEMs, but Porsche is one in particular because they kind of always had the fun factor nailed down pretty hard for, I think, a long time. What are we getting after we get 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds? While that is awesome, I don't launch the car that I own every day. Not that it's actually that quick to launch at all. Now, the 911 Turbo is a product that I think a very specific kind of person wants. It's not a super niche product, but I think it's made for a guy who wants to go fast when he wants to go fast, wants a great looking car that's small and light enough to take on a canyon road if he so chooses, but then also just absolutely cruise on the Autobahn in absolute comfort. And this is also a person who doesn't care about having a V8. That's the 911 Turbo buyer. And now doesn't care about having a manual because you can't get manuals in these cars anymore after 997. So now that we've got that launch out of the way, I have to go and actually pick up my Porsche PR rep, and I got to get there relatively quickly and before running out of gas because I've got like just barely a quarter of a tank left. The car is actually screaming at me right now to fuel up, but that has helped with acceleration. That's one thing. This car is bananas. 700 horsepower from a twin turbo hybrid, effectively. This is not a type of hybrid that gives you electric only range. This is just giving you an E-motor in the transmission and then 2 electrically powered turbos. And so throttle response and brakes are very, very impressive, to say the least. So I think what impresses me the most is how much faster this feels than the 911 GTS that I drove. That car was quick, it was fast for sure, and it kind of did everything I wanted it to do, just like a 911 should. But this is just so much more of that in so many ways. Firstly, this car, I think, drives just as well, handles just as well, despite it being a little bit heavier and all-wheel drive, just like the GTS I had was all-wheel drive. But the comfort level, that's something that I think is really impressing me is just how nice this is to drive. Like, the ride is just so nice. So nice. And Porsche has done very little as far as suspension in order to actually make this a more, like, comfortable old man compatible car. Really, all they've done to this car is introduce the EHPDCC, which is just an electro-hydraulic version of Porsche dynamic chassis control to stiffen the sway bars when sending it through corners, which does help mitigate the big backness of this 911 Turbo, which I believe is like over 3,700 pounds. This is a heavy car. And so, I guess generally speaking, right, the hybridization of the 911 has made it just a better car overall on paper and in practice, but these cars are getting truly to the point where I feel like they're too good. Like, this car is genuinely too good. It's almost completely faultless outside of it being a big and heavier 911 than 911s of old. Outside of that, it's really hard to criticize this car in any way, and while I think that's great for making a car that Porsche can say is nearly perfect, I feel like something's missing for me. I mean, firstly, I do not love the sound of the 911 Turbo S. I quite honestly never have. I'm more of an NA guy, and so that's 100% personal preference. But I mean, as the engines get smaller and more efficient and Euro 7 compliant, which is out of Porsche's control, the soundtrack just gets less and less interesting. It still very much sounds like a Porsche. If you just played me the noise of this car, it's unmistakably a Porsche, but it's just not something I'm super crazy about. And then just the fact that mechanically this is just so buttoned down, and they've done everything they can to the point where the tires are the most limiting factor. The tires are the biggest bottleneck of driving this thing, which is crazy. Now, I'm not a race car driver and I haven't taken this on the track, so maybe this opens up in a track in a way that would absolutely have me smiling from ear to ear. Just driving it in this sort of scenario. It's a very fast car, but you kind of get used to it after the first like half hour of driving, which I don't know if you should.
Unlike other reviews you'll see online, I only got to drive this car on the road, but the time I spent allowed me to get a pretty good idea of what this car was capable of. Despite this thing weighing as much as an M3 competition, the weight was pretty well masked, and even with a sizable battery up front, the turn-in was still really solid and maintained that classic rear-end bias. In summary, this car still drives fantastically.
Another thing that I continue to realize is that, like I say in every non-GT Porsche review, the PDK in the GT4 RS in particular has ruined PDK for every other vehicle in the Porsche lineup, this one included. It's fine, it does what it needs to do. The dual clutch is as quick as I think it needs to be for a car like this, but it's truly lacking that engagement, the snappiness of the downshifts, the mechanical chatter. I really am missing all of that every time I drive a non-GT4 RS Porsche product. But generally speaking, I just don't think, despite the transformative changes they've made to the 911, and this being probably the best way to do a hybrid for a sports car, I don't think it's for me. But man, it's definitely experience driving this car and just feeling the car just never stop pulling. It's insane how quick this car is. That's probably what I like the most about this car, is just how utterly fast it is. It's also incredibly compliant and dailyable, like I said, but you just have these moments where you're just like, I just did what? I just hit 0 to 60 in how many seconds? Huh?
The problem for me is that the Turbo S can do all of these amazing things and somehow allow you to forget. I'd find myself blasting down a Spanish freeway and somehow disassociating with the fact that I'm in the most capable road-going Porsche that's ever been made. It's kind of like watching the craziest fireworks show you've ever seen, but in black and white and on mute. You just can't really appreciate what's happening because of all the engineering going on that makes the car so capable, also makes it very removed from the sensation of the entire experience. And I'm really afraid that the further we refine and improve the engineering prowess on these cars, the more isolated from the car I'll feel. Porsche wanted to make the fastest version of the Turbo S that they could, while still leaving room for a GT2 RS, which I'm sure is coming at some point. And I think they succeeded at doing that and making the ultimate all-wheel drive 911 just a car that effectively compromises on nothing. It doesn't compromise on speed, it doesn't compromise on livability, daily ability. It does all the Porsche stuff in the ways you would want a Porsche to. It's not the car for me, but it is a car. I will tell you that right now. It is definitely a car. Well, I'm almost out of fuel and I'm more or less out of time driving this car. I know this was a quick one, but I just wanted to, shit, am I getting pulled over? All right, so I'm almost out of fuel and I am almost out of time. But I wanted to give my thoughts on this car while I've got it, because who knows if I'll get to drive this car again. It's probably gonna be quite a while before I can get my hands on a car that I can live with for a week and really see what it's about. So yeah, that's about it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe for future content like this. Also, let me know what you guys think about my shirt in the comments down below. Just curious.